Hey guys, Caleb here, back again with more Red Knots, and sadly I will be reading more of this crappy sailing mystery bullshit. Because Mom, for some reason, got all 3 books. I guess they were cheap at the bookstore. So, last time I read what I believe was the very last book, Sins of Deception, and this time I'm reading the very first book, and oh my god, it's so awesome, right? I have an autographed copy. She wrote in it. Holy shit. An author I absolutely know is a piece of crap. So, yeah, paperback edition, Sins of Silence, because we got a thing for sin, and for coloring the first letter of our title, of each word in our title, red for some reason. Nothing too special. A boat, looks like it's about, going back and forth. I was going to say about to capsize, but I think it should be a little more tilted if it was going to capsize. And of course, A Sailing Mystery by Valerie Wilcox, who's a piece of crap. I mean, might be a very nice lady, but she doesn't know what she's writing. So, let's see. Above the title of the book, it says, investigating a murder is rarely smooth sailing. We're clever, book. So clever. I would have never thought of that. Flipping to the back. She's navigated tidal winds, raised an adopted teenage daughter, and survived the death of a beloved husband. Now Seattle sailing instructor Kelly Montgomery has discovered a new talent for probing the murky depths of murder. Rough waters. A luxury yacht has been found drifting aimlessly outside the Stards Marina, with its owners on board dead from gunshots to the head. Kelly Montgomery is sure she can help find the killer, even though everyone from the police to her friends to her daughter tells her to stay away, with good reason. But the reputation of the marina is at stake. How does that matter to you? You pilot a boat. You're a sailing instructor. How are you trained for this? What business is it of yours? And if it goes, so does Kelly's job. Then get a job at another marina. I'm sure there's thousands of them. I'm already mad because I know this is stupid, and it's just getting dumber even though I'm reading the back of the book. At first, the clues Kelly follows seem simple enough, but they soon point to a more sordid past for the victims than she ever suspected. And now, as danger threatens Kelly and her family because she's stupid and did this, because she's an idiot, the time has come for this fledgling investigator to prove her worth. If she was actually an investigator and not some stupid piece of shit doing something absolutely so dumb. Usually, when you have a novice investigator story character, they have some kind of background. Like something you could actually believe that would make sense for them to start poking their nose into this business even though it probably doesn't belong. You know, Savannah Ride, who was one of my favorite, about said comic book, and I'm like, she's not from a comic book, she's from a novel. One of my favorite current mystery heroines was a former police detective in, I want to say Los Angeles, but that could be wrong. It's been a while since I got to read those stories. But it makes sense for her because she has ties to the police force still, even though she's just a private detective. It makes sense for when a murder or something happens, she goes and investigates. Because she still has friends on the police force, and she's trained for years to be a police detective, on top of actually having years as a police detective. You know, some other characters are descended from famous detectives or famous police officers. You know, Charlie Chan is a fantasy mystery detective who solves crimes through reasoned logic, deduction, you know, all the stuff Sherlock Holmes established. And all his kids look up to him and want to be like him. Because he's a detective, a legitimate actual police detective, his kids learn stuff from him. They're still dumb, and they get in trouble because they're trying to do stuff they're not actually legitimately trained for. But it makes sense why his kids would be stupid and try to do stuff on their own. Our heroine here, in this book, she's just a sailing instructor. She, as far as I can remember, doesn't actually know any legitimate police officers. In fact, if you remember in Sins of Deception, she had no idea how police or any officer of the law actually acts, and just made them giant dickbags. So, that's a thing. Wilcox debut sails smooth through a sea of dark secrets and murky death. Mary Dime, author of The Airplane Journey, with her meaningful plot and earthly, likable sailing instructor heroine, Wilcox treats us to an adventure that resonates long after we finish reading. I'm looking forward to reading more of her work. Earling Flower, author of Dove in the Window. So I guess that means I have to actually read this now instead of putting it off like I've been. I just gotta remember, my new neighbors are old, and I don't want to start screaming at the top of my lungs and bother them, because it is like 10 at night. So, yeah, I'm just going to pass that and go straight for chapter 1, because all this is pointless. And there's her signature. Dedication, acknowledgments. Shall I present my firstborn for my rebellious acts, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Micah 6:7. Ellipses. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. Ellipses. From Mending Wall by Robert Frost. Is this something like good fences make good neighbors? Was that? I don't think that was by Frost, was it? Anyway. Sentence of silence. Okay, here we go. Let's start this crap. On the water, everything is quiet. It doesn't hit until you're out of the marina, beyond the breakwater and well into the bay. Sails hoisted and motor cut. In the distance, the city witnesses your escape like a jealous lover. Okay, I guess. Traffic, pollution, people, and, if you're very lucky, the noise in your head are all beyond reach. The rushing water against the hull and the light wind against the sails calms and soothes your troubled soul. The crisp winter air feels spiritual, and you lean your body into it as if in prayer. You feel so strong, so vibrant, and so alive that you want to shout just to hear the power of your own being. But you don't, because nothing feels as good as the quiet. So you listen and watch, knowing full well that it's nothing more than an illusion, this quiet, this feeling of power that surges within you. For it is the wind that is powerful. It is the wind that determines everything. It is the wind that gives lie to the presumptuous notion that because we're human, we are in control, that we have dominion over the world and its elements. Because we don't own our world, the sea doesn't belong to us, and we have nothing in firm control. What does this have to do with what's going on? I get it. You're in a boat. You like being in a boat. And you're trying to explain to us that shit can fuck up when you're in a boat. And it can be dangerous. So you shouldn't stay in La La Land too long. I took, 2-3 minutes to read that, and I summed it up in less than 30 seconds? Yeah. It's okay, but, it really doesn't belong here. You know, you really need to, get into the heart of the action and not talking about poetry. You know, if you want to write poetry about how awesome the sea is and how little man is in comparison to nature, write poetry. Don't write poetry in your mystery novel. The sailor knows this and responds to what the wind requires of her. Sailor is usually for a man, but okay. I guess there really is no feminine version of sailor that I'm aware of. She changes course. She trims the sheet. Trims the sheets. She sails into the wind, against the wind, with the wind, sideways of the wind, or if the wind so chooses, she sails not at all. Apparently, we were trying to up our word count. Measured against the tremendous forces of nature, the hurricane, the typhoon, the squalls. The sailor knows that we are nothing, that our well-being, our very lives, are as tenuous as sea foam, subject to the whim of an unseen fist rising up at any moment to strike us down. Death, accident, and disease are as inevitable as the wind. The sailor knows this and responds. Because the sea can hear you when you talk to it. The sea is unforgiving, Kelly darling. Didn't I say that? Didn't I say you gotta keep your eye on her? Didn't I say you gotta pay attention to everything? See those streaks of white in the sky? See how they're trailing clouds of gray? See the way the wind is shifting, rippling the water across her bow? Now, what Now what's all that telling you? I didn't see it coming, Grampy. Not the wind or anything that came later. It was a mistake, of course, and for this error in judgment, this miscalculation, this failure to heed the warning signs, the consequences were irrevocable, absolute and deadly. So you accidentally got your grandfather killed. Okay. This would have been better to, maybe start off with, maybe you're trying to get a job as a sailing instructor, but you have to overcome this, and it's sort of a little mystery until maybe about the middle of the book when you finally, explain this to other characters and thus the reader. But, okay. Big whoop-de-doo, I'm sorry. You didn't really build that up. I just had a lot of fancy words to try and create an imagery in my head until I'm shocked out of it by, I accidentally killed my grandfather because I didn't pay attention enough to what I was doing like I was supposed to be. Yeah, sorry. I am sorry, but so, what's that got to do with the story? How does that affect you now? How does that affect you in this story? Oh, it doesn't? It's just supposed to, give you some kind of history and make me feel sad for you when you're not really established as a character at all? No, that's not how that works. The wind was a chilling winter wind out of Alaska that blew in fast and hard, turning a peaceful early morning sail into a rush and rowdy dance across the seething mass of whitecaps. Within minutes, the wind-surfed waters of Elliott Bay had become a churning, boiling cauldron from the breakwater that Lordstad's marina to the Seattle waterfront 2 miles away. What? Okay. I was aboard Second Wind, a sturdy 40-foot sloop. Again, don't know what a sloop is. I had to look it up, but I guess it's last time I called it a yacht, but from what I can find online, it looks more like a sailboat. Like what you would, like a little kid would draw or something, or you see in paintings, like a little sailboat that had taken on far rougher waters in Puget Sound without a problem. Ordinarily, I'd have reefed the sails and enjoyed the ride, but I was nursing a bum ankle with a nasty fall earlier in the day and didn't feel up to the challenge. Reluctantly, I started the engine, dropped the sails, and headed back to the marina. Why would it be... This doesn't really sound pleasant, so I don't know why you would stay out there. I mean, instead of being unfortunate, being reluctant to do this, I'd imagine you'd want to go back, especially if you'd hurt your ankle. This doesn't make any sense to me. I just approached Lordstad's mile-long breakwater when I spotted a boat in trouble. I couldn't tell if she was disabled or adrift or piloted by a raw beginner, but the result was the same. She had a problem and needed help. I've been around boats ever since I can remember, from tiny rowboats to racing sloops twice the size of Second Wind. But I couldn't handle a rescue by myself in these conditions without endangering my own craft. So I kept one eye on the boat, switched to the VHF to channel 78, and called the harbor master. Well, I guess because we're about to get to the description here, a little bit of a description here in a minute, but you really should go ahead and describe to us how this looks bad instead of just like, oh, it's bad, so I radioed for help because they obviously need rescued. That doesn't tell me why something is very wrong. You should take a paragraph to go into detail to explain, maybe several paragraphs, to quickly tell us why this looks wrong, and so that we can actually learn stuff. I mean, really, these books assume we already know everything there is to know about sailing stuff and ships and all of that. If you're the average Joe who's only been on a boat once or twice, maybe when you were a kid or something, like a fake pirate ship or something, you don't know nothing about a boat. You need to It's cool if you understand everything there is to know about sailing, but you need to explain pretty much everything. Not everything to like the kind of coffee somebody drinks, unless somehow that helps cement their personality, not ferment, my bad. Cement their personality, like a husband drinks Earl Grey, but his wife always drinks vanilla tea. I mean, vanilla flavored coffee with cream and 2 sugars or something. That's not really necessarily information unless we're going to be involved with those two, that married couple a lot and actually interacting with them, or maybe they're our main characters. That's something that's interesting to know about their character and would explain that, and you could work with that, like the husband, like they've been married for 25 years or something. And, that would be an interesting mystery pair, a husband and wife, or maybe slightly older couple, solving mysteries and stuff. That would be cool. Like, look, take that idea and roll with it. Like, I don't know, build upon that. Write me a good story or something. Or even publish it. I don't care if you steal the idea. Go ahead. I'm just throwing stuff out there, seeing what's cool and what's not. But anyway, back to this crap. I think I lost my point. But my point is, you need to describe stuff to us. Don't just say, oh, it was in trouble, so I called for help. How was it in trouble? How did you know it was in trouble? And why was it in trouble? Can you find out why yet? If not, I guess that's part of the mystery. And called the harbor master. Lordstad's Marina, this is Second Wind, Whiskey Bravo Romeo, not Romero, 455. Lordstad's Marina, go ahead, Second Wind. Birds, I'm at the south end of the breakwater. There's a fair-sized boat in trouble out here. What kind of trouble? She's drifting towards the rocks. Do you see anyone signaling for help? Not a soul. It's possible no one's on board. Or aboard. My bad. I'm stumbling over all my words. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll get Danny to check it out. Thanks, Callie. Better hurry. It doesn't look good. I signaled off, confident that Bert got the picture. If the boat stayed on her present course, she was doomed. A boat hitting the massive rock wall of the breakwater would be like a parachutist hitting the ground without a chute. I kind of already got the picture when you said it was going to be hitting a bunch of rocks, because that's usually bad for a boat, and even I know that. But I guess in case you weren't aware of it, you are now. Even if the boat didn't immediately sink from the violent jolt of the crash, she'd be destroyed soon enough from the action of the waves grinding her against the 400-pound boulders. I maneuvered Second Wind, so why is this italicized? I get it, it's the name of your boat. I maneuvered Second Wind so that she was headed into the wind, and waited for the rescue crew. Within minutes, Danny and another kid named Joe. Do we need to know that his name is Joe? Are these guys important to the story? Because you shouldn't name them if they're not important to the story. And how do you know the kid is named Joe? You're just like, and another dude. His name's Joe. A kid named Joe rounded the breakwater in the marina's small work skiff and headed directly for the troubled craft. I held second wind as steady as I could and watched their progress with a pair of binoculars, realizing as I did that it wasn't the rescue I was drawn to, but the boat's almost certain demise. The insight made me feel sheepish, as if I were some bloodthirsty hockey fan hoping for a good fight, but I could live with sheepish. Hell, I could live with bloodthirsty. The insight made me feel sheepish, as if I was some... If you don't feel bad about this... I mean, you're trying to say you feel bad about this, but apparently you don't give two shits about feeling bad. You apparently don't feel bad. So we're just, again, stating something that doesn't need to be said. Which I was about to bring up, why are you still out there anyway, aside from plot convenience? Assume, whatever. Even with binoculars, the fancy gold lettering inscribed across the boat's stern was difficult to read. It took a moment, but when I finally figured out the name, Mary Maiden, I had to read it a couple more times before I was sure that I'd gotten it right. In the 3 years I lived aboard my sloop at Lartstad's, this was the first time I'd seen the elegant 65-foot Hatteras outside the confines of the marina. So, in the 3 years that you have lived aboard your sloop, like it's a houseboat? Because I read a story where the detective lady lived on a houseboat. Or do you mean like you made your living by being the pilot of the ship? I'm so confused. Like, you're not telling me a clear story. I'm just getting more and more confused. This was the first... Yeah, I read that. There didn't seem to be anyone aboard, but as soon as I readjusted the focus, I spotted someone slumped over the helm on the flybridge. Again, I don't know where that is. I really know nothing about boats except I can look at one and say, hey, that's a boat. Based on size alone, it couldn't have been the yacht's owner, Donald Moyer. Then again, it could just as well have been his wife, Miranda, an attractive but rather portly woman. It was impossible to tell for sure who it was, particularly since the face was obscured by an oddly skewed hat. There's a bug flying around. I could tell the person wasn't moving, though, and in light of the boat's predicament, he or she was most likely unconscious. Or worse. Another pass around the deck with the binoculars, and I discovered a second person aboard. I'd missed the sighting on the first go-around because he or she was partially hidden by a dinghy. Let me sketch my face. By a dinghy dangling at a precarious angle from its davit. And again, you're speaking Greek to me. I don't know what these things are. Why don't you explain what these things are to me? That would have been a nice way to spend an entire first chapter, is telling me, giving me a setup rather than partially giving me just to know, and then assuming I know what everything else is and just going with it. This person was sprawled face down on the deck and was also unidentifiable. Okay, I just want to say, you said you were looking through a pair of binoculars. But you're so far away even with a pair of binoculars that it is difficult for you to see what's going on. Yet, you are able to, despite everything being unidentifiable, you're able to tell that there are two people who are unconscious, or maybe worse. But everything else is unidentifiable. How? How could you know that if they're face down or something? How could you know that if you can't tell anything? I don't get you, stupid book. You can't know this if you can't see anything. Then the skiff finally reached the yacht. Danny struggled to get close enough for Joe to throw a tow line. The wind had picked up, and the hatter was bobbing even more erratically than before. The wake from the passing Washington State ferry didn't help matters. Every time Danny got close enough for Joe to throw a line around the cleat at the bow, at the bow, not the bow, but I keep reading it as bow. At the bow, Mary Maiden heaved in the opposite direction, and the tow line fell into the water. Realizing at last that the bow cleat wasn't going to work, Danny spun the skiff around so fast that Joe was taken off guard. Only by grabbing the gunwale did he manage to save himself from falling overboard. Good job, dude. I'll almost create another emergency. Danny, meanwhile, had quickly maneuvered the skiff amidships where he should have been in the first place. Thank you for explaining this to me now instead of telling me that they were fucking up, to start with, and maybe you should have reported the fact that they were fucking up to the marina, but whatever. This time, Joe looped the line over a cleat without a problem. So these dumbasses are supposed to be the rescue crew, and they're apparently dumbasses, so they can't even do the rescue properly. And our heroine's a dumbass because she can't think to inform somebody who has a proper, smart rescue crew who know what they're doing. Good job. As soon as he had their craft secured to the yacht, Joe scampered aboard and hauled the line to the forward cleat so Danny could tow the boat from the bow. I'm trying to call it the bow again. From the bow. Forward cleat so Danny could, it would be a slow trip back to the marina. Besides the wind and the rough water, we just said there were some people, at least two people, who seemed to at least be unconscious, if not worse. Granted, I don't know anything about boat procedures, but shouldn't we, upon discovering this, perhaps immediately notify a lifeguard and have the lifeguard show up? I mean, anybody who knows anything about boats and rescuing people on boats, feel free to comment and explain stuff. But as soon as we identify that there are unconscious people on there, and that the rescue team, who apparently aren't rescue team, because they're not doing, they're not checking on these people, they're just towing the boat. You're not checking? Are you serious? You didn't bring a medic in case something was wrong? Somebody who should be there because they know medical stuff in case something is wrong? What are you thinking, author? It'd be a slow trip back to the marina. Besides the wind and the rough water, the Hatteras must have outweighed the small workboat by 20 tons or more. Again, why not call for lifeguard people? Do they not have a specialty rescue team in case shit happens? I would think that would be required of a marina. The show over, because people that could be dead is a show. I exchanged a thumbs up with Danny and Joe and set my course once again for Lordstad's, where, if the folks aboard Mary Maiden were as bad off as they appeared, all hell was about to break loose. Well, we don't know that yet, because nobody has a medical license and bothered to check on the motherfuckers. Chapter 2. As far as marinas go, Lordstad's wasn't the largest in the Seattle area, but it was unquestionably the ritziest, and with mooring space at a hefty $10 per liner foot, it was the priciest. The facility's on-site amenities included a yacht brokerage, an upholstery and sail repair shop, a yachting apparel outlet, and a sailing school and 2 restaurants, the topside bar and grill for casual dining, and the elegant Pacific boiler for more formal occasions. Okay, and granted, I don't know anything about marinas either. Can you have all this crap at marina? I don't know anything about boats or sailing, as I've said before. I don't know, but this seems ridiculous to me, but maybe so. In spite of the costs, folks were so eager for mortgage at La Stars that there was a 3-year waiting list for a slip. It wasn't uncommon to reserve a spot on the list before you'd even bought a boat. Having not much money and even less patience, I came to moor my sloop at the marina via the old-fashioned route. I knew someone who had pull. Bert Foister, the harbor master, was married to my older sister for more than 20 years. They divorced 5 years ago, and, much to Donna's displeasure, Bert and I have remained friends. He's not only moved my name to the top of the waiting list, no small feat in itself, but also arranged a substantial discount for the slip due to a job he fangled for me at the sailing school. So basically, he just cheated and just bumped your name to the top of the list without nobody noticing. Okay. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen. Or heroine in this case. Even with the cold and windy weather, there were more than a few hearty souls out and about when I got back to the marina. I knew it wouldn't be long. I knew it wouldn't be long before the word of Mary Maiden's rescue in progress had made the rounds. Sure enough, I'd no more secured second wind and headed up the mooring ramp than Bert came running out of his office with half the marina staff and a number of inquiring minds-want-to-know types hot on his heels. Inquiring minds want to know. Within seconds, the others had left him behind, hurrying off to a dock. You know, maybe you should be like Doc A instead of capitalizing A. Whatever. To a dock on their own. Bert was a big man and definitely not accustomed to running, which was understandable considering he was carrying an extra 100 pounds on his 60-foot frame. His 60-foot frame. Wow, I cannot read tonight. On his 6-foot frame, mostly around the belly. No shit, Sherlock. How else do you expect to, have an extra 100 pounds? I'd seen him struggle to tie his shoes. Yes, because fat people have a hard time doing anything. Like, I'm probably almost, last I knew, 260 something. God, man, it is so hard to tie my shoes. Like, what would I do if I didn't have flip-flops? Oh my god, tying shoes for a fat person, such a chore. Like, you know, all that fat when you bend over is so heavy. Like, you just topple over. Oh my god, nobody wants to see a fat person lying on their back. That's gross. And you know they all eat unhealthy shit. Like gummy bears, Jolly Ranchers. But I got my skinny jeans on. Because I'm skinny. All those fat people in their fat jeans. Ew. Makes about as much sense. So running would be nearly impossible. Yeah. Because fat people can't run. Good job. You're so intelligent, main character and author of this book. Despite that, he made it to the repair dock before I did. My ankle hurt like a son of a gun. Oh, we're gonna say son of a gun instead of son of a bitch. And a gimpy walk was about the best I could muster. A substantial number of looky-loos had What kind of language is this? This is stupid. Stop talking like a 5-year-old. What the fuck is a looky-loo? Who says that? Had gathered along the dock to witness Merry Maiden's impending arrival. Front and center was Todd L. Wilmington, a.k.a. the Weathersill. Weathersill? Whatever. He'd easily beaten Bert to the repair dock and was busy doing what he always did, trying to look important. The L in his name stood for Lardstad, as in Lardstad's Marina, as in owner's nephew, meaning he was like an itch you couldn't get rid of. Or, like, for example, when Savannah Ride has to go to the police station so she can talk to the chick running the morgue, there's this nasty, disgusting cop there that is always at the check-in and check-out desk for visitors, who are coming to visit the morgue and, see the autopsies and stuff. Savannah hates this guy, and the story goes, the writer goes out of her way to use his character, his personal interaction with Savannah in the way he acts and speaks to show you that this guy is a total loser and a disgusting douchebag. So that when Savannah doesn't like him very much and talks nasty about him, you don't feel bad for this guy because he is what she says he is. Because you've seen it in the way he talks to women in the book, even though his presence in each book is maybe a page or two. Here, we just have our main character, and thus the author, telling us that this particular guy is just a dick. There's nothing yet to show us that this guy is a dick. We just have the main character say so. We haven't got to meet this character yet. You see what I'm trying to say here? Meeting a character versus being told about a character. Big difference. A couple of fellows had come over from the fuel dock to help with the yacht's mooring lines when she arrived, but they made the unfortunate mistake of standing too close to the Weasel. So, are we talking about a boat, or are we talking about this guy you don't like? You didn't really specify, so what am I supposed to assume? The next thing they knew, they were on the receiving end of a lengthy lecture, namely how they should handle the tie-down, something they'd only been doing half their lives. Meanwhile, Bert, whose normally ruddy complexion had turned a molted shade of reddish purple, stood off to one side of the dock and tried to catch his breath. He doffed his official harbor master's hat and wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his jacket sleeve. "You call an ambulance?" I asked. "Police," Bert gasped, still breathless. "There's a couple of shifts aboard the yacht," added the weasel. "There are a couple of shifts aboard the yacht," added the weasel, sliding up to us uninvited. "Also, when you introduce a character, that is how you always refer to that character. So instead of referring to him as Weasel, you should be referring to him by his name, which is Todd. Unless you establish in that same sentence, or a next sentence, that he is also known as, secretly, behind his back, the Weasel. Otherwise, don't refer to him as the Weasel. You didn't establish this. You just started calling him this. This is like when I just said fuck it to Relay Board and started calling her Relay Board." He delivered his news in a thin, high-pitched voice, like an adolescent who never made it through puberty. Some people around here think that's not far off the mark. At 35, he still had the long, lanky body and pimply face of a teenager. Because some people have long, lanky bodies. I still get pimples. I'm almost 30. Big deal. But I'm also a fat person who apparently can't run or tie their shoes. I stared at him blankly, momentarily overcome by an urge to send the guy to the principal's office. Why? What did he say wrong other than, "You don't like him"? He just explained to you that there are some dead people aboard the yacht, apparently. I want to hurt things. He didn't say anything wrong. I mean, yeah, sure, he probably could have said it better. When I didn't respond, he tossed out what he must have thought was a real zinger. I caught Danny's radio call while Bert was in the John. "Okay, sure." I pointedly ignored him, addressing Bert instead. "Did Danny say who they are?" "Nope. Joe was too shook up after he found them. He just said they're a man and a woman. And deader than doornails," the weasel offered. "Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but again, he's not saying anything wrong." "Most likely the owners, Donald and Miranda Moyer," I said. "You know them, Bert?" He shook his head. "Only by reputation. I met them officially when they signed up for a slip a few years back. I haven't had much contact with them since. Have you?" The weasel jumped in before I could answer. "I have," he said. "As old man Lardstad's nephew, Todd L. Winton." Why'd you say his whole name? Just call him Todd, or as you still say, Weasel. Was on the marina's payroll, but he had no job description or official duties to perform. "How do you know that? Have you asked, or are you just assuming that?" Which left him with plenty of time to butt into everybody else's business. If he's part of the business of the marina, this is his business, because he's probably going to be an owner of the business, you dumbass. When he wasn't busy doing just that, he was fawning over the marina's wealthiest clients, and the Moyers, with their 7-figure luxury yacht, were undisputably wealthy. That Wilmington had contact with them was about as surprising as a rainy day in Seattle. Not really. You just said he's the nephew of the guy who owns the place. It would make sense that the person who's probably his second in command, despite your bullshitting, is going to be talking to the clients who are there at the marina. You idiot! Though I guess you're being sarcastic now that I'm thinking about it. In fact, he said, warming to the subject, Dawn and Miranda were very good friends of mine, very good friends indeed. I tried. Honest to God, I tried. I even gave Bert's warning look fair consideration. But the weasel's thin-lipped, full of himself smile did me in. You know, being a guy's nephew, that means he's higher ranked than you, most likely. You're really gonna go mouth off to somebody who can easily fire you or get you fired for being a dick. I fail to understand your logic, lady. Really, Todd, I said sweetly, did the Moyers know you were such good friends? Bert groaned. The weasel didn't get it. Well, of course they did. He held up 2 fingers tightly crossed. We were like this. I was all set to fire back another remark, one that he was damn sure to get, when a commotion at the other end of the dock distracted me. No doubt a career-saving moment. Oh, so you are smart enough to realize this could have cost you your job. And you were going to do it anyway. In fact, you just said that your friend Bert here, I believe it was Bert, I'm not going to bother to check if I was right or not, actually worked his ass off to pretty much put you in the position you're in. So you're going to squander it and hope he saves your ass? Is that what you're thinking here? You're a fucking retard, protagonist lady. In fact, you're a piece of shit, and I'm hating you more and more as I keep reading your fucking books. As Danny work skiff with Mary Maiden in tow pulled alongside the dock, I joined Bert and the other fellows to lend a hand with the lines. Doesn't your ankle hurt you? How can you help? You said you were hobbling, that it hurt you. How can you help? You're injured. You're going to get more injured. Idiot. When we had the yacht safely secured, I asked Bert about going on board. Ever since I'd first spotted Mary Maiden in trouble, I knew it would come down to this. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Why do you have to go on board? You're not a detective. You've never had police training. You're not rescue crew. You're not a medic. You're not a doctor. You have no right or reason to go on the boat. And if they let you on that boat, they should be held liable. Be sued. You're going to ruin the reputation of the marina, not save it, you dumbass. What is wrong with you? Why do you think you are so fucking important? It's like I am being forced to read my fucking inner life again. I hated my inner life. One of the reasons because Jenna thought she was so important and better than everybody. And entitled to shit. Worse than any of the looky-loos lining the dock again. What the fuck is a looky-loo? I can guess, but this is like 5-year-old talking. Did you let your 5-year-old write your book? I don't know how old the author lady is, but apparently she's not mentally mature enough to actually use proper words or to explain shit. I was determined to find out who was aboard and what had happened to them. For no reason. You have no reason to go aboard the boat and find anything out. You have no reason or purpose for this. You are not important to what's going on. You have no reason. No reason at all. No ties to police. No ties to anything worth medical treatment. Nothing. You're just staff. And even then, you're just a training instructor on how to sail a ship or a boat or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're a dumbass. You're not entitled to do anything here. And of course you're going to be allowed to because why not? Hell, I might as well just go down to a marina and be like, oh, that boat's in trouble. I'm gonna go aboard, because it comes down to, I have to do this because I'm the hero here. You know what they're gonna do when I show up and say something dumb like that? They're gonna kick me out. If not, turn me over to the police and have them arrest me for being stupid and trying to fuck with things I don't need to be fucking around with, because I could screw something up that would have normally led the police right to the suspect. You don't know this. You're not special, except in my head, for thinking this is a good idea and that you're entitled to it. Preferably sooner than later, before the police arrived and put all such notions permanently to rest. As they should. Why are you even thinking about this? You're the kind of crazy person that dates Tim Bundy. Tim Bundy? That dates Bundy. Or all those other crazy serial killers. What is wrong with you? Bert hesitated, looking around at the crowd that had by now grown even larger. He was a by-the-book type of guy, the kind who follows all the rules, written and unwritten, never tipping less than 15%, never drinking milk straight from the carton, never speeding up to make a yellow light, and God love him, never coloring outside the lines. But some reason you're an exception. You're just like the most awesome person ever. So you get, for some reason, a free pass. And I bet with no actual consequences. Judging by the size of the frown working its way across his brow, my request to go aboard the yacht had him rattled. For a good reason, because you have no reason or point or logic to be making this demand. Or request, really, but it's really a demand. After all, there were definite rules about such things. I expected a flat no, but he waffled instead. Gee, Kelly, I don't know, he said. The police aren't going to like you going aboard, advised the weasel. He'd faded into the background when the yacht came in, but now that we had the dock work finished, he was in our faces again. He didn't say anything wrong. He stated the truth. That you're a fucking idiot, and if you do it, the police are going to be pissed. And they're going to blame you, they're going to blame the marina, they're going to blame everybody in charge. You're going to make a bigger mess than is needed. Dumbass! You fucking retard! Oh my god, are you so fucking stupid? You're writing a mystery novel and you don't know how this shit works! What the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What is wrong? Did you not take criminal justice? Did you not go bother studying real police work? Did you not? Why are you writing mystery novels? Just write about sailing. That's what you want to do anyway. Write about some chick fucking sailing in the ocean, on a lake. Somebody came over for tea, and they went to sailing on a boat. Stop writing mystery novels. You don't know what you're doing. And until you take some fucking classes, and some classes on decent plot progression, and how to structure things, don't write mystery novels. Write something else. Please, for the love of all that is good. Stop writing mystery novels until you know what you're doing. Do not write what you do not know. You clearly do not know how investigations work, how preserving a crime scene works, how not letting anybody interfere with that crime scene and contaminate that crime scene works. You know nothing. Absolutely nothing. And no, I'm not going to put a clip from Watching Me Do the Weird Al Yankovic. No, because this story is not worth a good joke. It's not even worth me reading this crap. Because I can't even start screaming properly to relieve how angry and frustrated I am. And it's only the second chapter. It's only the second chapter. I'm gonna need Tylenol. I need aspirin. He's right, Bert agreed. The weasel flashed me a self-satisfied look. Come on, I pleaded. Let's both go see what's up. You're the harbor master. You have the authority. But he doesn't need to take you. I would imagine it's okay for somebody in charge of the place to have a quick look around before the police come there, but I don't think they could actually really go aboard once they confirm that somebody's dead aboard that ship. In fact, you already know people are dead aboard that ship, or yacht, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. There is no reason for anybody but police officers to go aboard there. Absolutely none. Bert didn't say anything. I knew he was weighing the need to appear decisive and in charge against the possibility of making some kind of mistake. There's no need to think about this. You tell her to fuck herself. He'd been harbor master for more than 10 years, but like a lot of jobs nowadays, it wasn't a secure thing. Old man Lordstad was seriously considering selling out to Nakito Enterprises, a Japanese conglomerate that had been hankering after the marina for some time. And just what gives you the right to go aboard, Kelly? Asked Wilmington. Who's asking a fucking good question for all the fact that she hates this guy? He's got some common sense. The question was valid. I had no right at all. Thank God somebody acknowledges this. I was just the manager of the sailing school, a fledgling side business that was barely holding its own. If Nakito made any cuts when they took over, the school would be a likely candidate. Making a mistake wasn't exactly in my best interests either. This is a mistake. This is stupid. This is pointless. There is no reason for this. Absolutely none. If you had been a detective before, had some kind of actual training, maybe. I could, it's still a dumb idea, but I could logically see somebody like a doctor going aboard. Like, for some reason, going aboard even before the police are there. And at least checking to see if those people are still alive or need medical help. Nobody's done that yet. They're just like, oh, they're dead. Well, how do we know? Did anybody actually go aboard and confirm their deaths? Nope, they're just dead. So there's no doctor or anything that actually went to check. Nope, they're just dead. Oh, okay. Sure, why not, I guess. Not like it makes sense or anything. Sirens wailed in the distance. Decision time. Was it going to be Bert? I asked. He shrugged. Well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to take a quick look around. We don't know for sure if the bodies aboard really are the Moyers. I guess we should find out. That's not your place. It's not your place to find out. And the fact that nobody went aboard with a medical license to actually check to see if those people were dead. This story hurts my brain. And there's one more book to read. There's still another book, and she's writing more books. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to waste my money and buy them and read them for this stupid show. I hope the next book I'm wanting to do, I hope it's 1,000 times better because I need something to make up for the horrible terribleness, for the headache that's forming, for the absolute downright bitching I need to do that I can't because I don't want to bother my neighbors. Mary Maiden was one of those fabulous luxury yachts and that most folks can only dream about owning, although I was prejudiced against stink pots, as we sailors call motorized craft. Stink pot. What actual You're really going to get uppity about motorized boats. There's some kind of elitist among you now. You real sailors and not people with their fancy electronics and gizmos. Fuck you. Middle finger. Middle finger to you. Fuck you all. Fuck the person who's the main character of this book. Fuck any of this insane bullshit garbage elitist crap that you're trying to shove down my throat. Because you're full of shit. And you are continuing to show me that you are full of shit. And continually making me upset and not want to read your books. Because it's just more of the same thing. These books are a waste of time. And they're entirely pointless. There is no reason for you to pick up any of these books, even for free. Although I was prejudiced against stink pots, as we sailors call the motorized craft, because I'm an elitist asshole and it makes no sense that I would be prejudiced against such a thing, there was no denying that the Hatteras was 65 feet of sheer yachting excellence. Yachting excellence. She had a dazzling array of electronics and navigational aids that would have made even the U.S. Coast Guard jealous. Modern, sleek, and fashionably European in overall appearance, this was one classy vessel. Based on her stunning exterior, I can only imagine how grand the main salon, I guess, and other quarters were. I would have liked a tour, but there was no time for sightseeing. I don't know, you're sightseeing dead bodies for some reason. Well, Bert climbed up a ladder to the flybridge. I checked out the body sprawled face down on the deck of the cockpit. It didn't take an expert to determine that Joe's assessment was correct. The man was dead. The gaping hole in his temple and attendant blood and gore left no room for doubt. In spite of the shocking mess, I still recognized Donald Moyer. I didn't know much about guns, or why I should just be so okay looking at a dead guy with a hole in his head and all his blood and guts and brains everywhere. Well, not really his guts if he's shot through the head, but you know what I mean. His gray matter. I didn't know much about guns. Yay me. But it was obvious that whatever was used to kill him was powerful. Blood, brains, and skull fragments were splattered across the deck and gunwale. Rust-colored splotches and streaks covered his Haley Hansen rain gear like some kind of macabre fashion design. So, you know what? I'm just gonna stop asking questions and pointing shit out because it's an hour 16 minutes into the recording and I just want to get this over with because this book is fucking stupid. I stood up, wind on my body, and took a couple of deep breaths. Thankfully, he hadn't been killed inside the cabin. Even with the brisk wind, the stench of death was suffocating. Oh, but you wanted to go there and check it out. Shouldn't you be, masturbating to it or something? Is that why you wanted to go on board? You get hard? Well, a woman can't get hard unless she happens to be a she-male or I guess trans, but anyway. Time stopped as I crossed myself, half forgotten word. Suddenly I'm religious, even though I never stated anything about being religious. Shouldn't you have done this when you first saw the boat and prayed that those people were okay instead of wanting to go sightseeing their dead bodies like you're a fucking tourist? What the fuck is wrong with you? God damn it, I hate you so much. Time stopped as I crossed myself, and half-forgotten words from my youth tumbled from my lips. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at our hour of death. The hour of our death. I once did a 2-year stint as a volunteer paramedic with... Shouldn't we know this before, you dumb F? My God! This is information we needed before. This would give you a reason to go on the motherfucking boat, because people are in trouble. In fact, you should have went out there when the rescue crew the guys to tow the boat showed up. And you should have been one of the first people on board, because you've been paramedic, you motherfucker! I once did a 2-year stint as a volunteer paramedic with the King County Fire Department. So I've seen a lot of gruesome stuff. Heads through window shields, severed limbs, bodies burned beyond recognition, but violent death still unnerves me. In fact, all I just did was describe violent death. And yet, that didn't bother me. But somebody being shot in the head, that's different. That's much more violent than being burned alive or some shit. Especially when it involves someone I knew. You didn't really know them, you knew of them. That's not the same thing as knowing them. Stifling the urge to upchuck my breakfast, because I'm so clever that I couldn't just say vomit, I turned from Donald Moyer's body to take in the rest of the death scene. The dinghy was suspended from the davit just as I had seen it through the binoculars, the lower half still angled in its cradle. Judging by the remote control device alongside Moyer's right hand, it appeared that he'd been trying to release the small craft when he was interrupted by the bullet. Great deduction skills, Sherlock. What would we ever do without you? Oh, wait. I was wondering how Bert was faring on the flybridge when he shouted for me to get myself up there. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to manage the ladder with my bad ankle. In fact, you shouldn't be doing any kind of shit with your bad ankle, but apparently you are. But curiosity is a powerful painkiller. Not really. I hobbled onto the bridge just as the cops arrived at the dock. Hey, you there! The shout came from a uniformed patrolman with a standard-issue black mustache and a scowl the size of Texas. I hate you so much. I hate your storytelling, I hate your characters, I hate your stereotype bullshit. A couple of his brothers in blue, stiff and wooden-looking in their crisp uniforms, stood by his side. The weasel promptly joined the group. Bert's moaning diverted my attention from the dock. He could hardly stand upright, and his face, so red a few minutes ago, had turned chalky white, since he appeared to be on the verge of passing out, or, God forbid, suffering a stroke. Because that's what happens when you see dead people. You have a stroke. Not like a heart attack or anything, which would make sense due to the sudden stress you're undergoing, and, stating quite easily that he's overweight, which would put more strain on the body. No, it causes a stroke. You suddenly have a stroke. You don't fucking know crap anything. You're a moron. I quickly grabbed his arm. Here, Bert, sit down before you fall. I helped him ease his bulky frame onto a bench seat, which was remarkably untouched by the bloodbath at the helm. At the same time, the officer who shouted at me uttered a few colorful adjectives and climbed aboard the yacht, leaving his compatriots along with the ever helpful Weasel to stand guard on the dock. And now we're going to get this BS about cops being shit. Oh wait, we're already writing how cops are shit and stereotypical. By the looks of the body at the helm, it was easy to determine why Bert was in such difficulty. What? It was easy to determine why Bert was in such difficulty. Who writes like that? What kind of sentence is that? That's... It was easy to understand why he was having such a difficult time, why he was so frightened, why he was so upset, why he looked so sick. There are better ways to write a sentence. I came up with several just now. Like her husband, Miranda Moyer had been shot. The bullet's impact had blown her rain hat almost completely off, giving me a perfect, albeit unpleasant, view of her blood-matted blonde hair and what was left of her head. She was slumped over the wheel, her arms casually drooped against the console panel, as if she had simply taken a moment from her piloting duties to rest. The console panel and windshield resembled a bloody Rorschach test, with brain matter and pieces of what looked like teeth thrown in for added horror. Thank you for trying to write a horror story. It doesn't really belong in my mystery novel, but you're kind of trying now. Should have been trying 13 pages before this. But when you're typing with your butt and your tits, I guess it's difficult to try. Bert leaned over the railing and retched. I searched through my jacket pockets for a handkerchief, but could only come up with a flimsy little tissue. It was better than nothing, so I handed it over. By then, the mustached cop had climbed onto the bridge. "What the hell's going on here?" he demanded. "For good reason." "He's sick." "No shit. I don't think that's what the cop was asking about." "Look, lady, don't get smart with me. Tell me something I don't already know." The possibilities were mind-boggling. "How?" "You're dumb. Aboard a ship that you're not supposed to be on." The cop has every right to take you and your friend there and throw you both in jail." "Like what?" "For starters, I want to know who you two are, why you're on board, why you're in the middle of a crime scene. A double homicide by the looks of things, and I damn well better like your answers. Or maybe you should just go ahead and question and arrest them because they're not supposed to be there." Bert gave a valiant try. "I'm the harbor," he began, then grabbing for the railing, he bent over and heaved again. "I'm not saying that because I'm religious," muttered the cop. He had a gloved hand over his nose while barking orders to the men stationed on the dock. "Foley, Gilberetti, get up here on the double. I want this man off the goddamn boat now." Why? Okay, we already established last story. She writes her cops like they're fucking morons. If cops acted like this, they'd lose their jobs. Why not just be like, "Hey, I got a sick person here that I need to question later. Come and get this stupid woman and this sick man, take them off the boat, make sure the man has something for nausea and vomiting, and when he's calmed down, I'll ask both him and her questions. Until then, take them off the ship and hold them." It's what a real cop would do. As Foley and Gilberetti helped Bert down from the flybridge, the officer turned his attention back to me. "Okay, ladies, start talking." I figured I had two choices here. I could play it straight and cooperate with the man. After all, he was just doing his job. "You're really going to give me that bullshit? You're really going to give me that bullshit?" "And doing it damn well, if you consider the tough cop routine convincing." Or apparently, as this lady likes to think, this is how all cops act. Or I could give him some of the sass I usually reserve for the weasel. I opted for cooperation. As you should. Because maybe, though I doubt it, he won't charge you with fucking around with a crime scene. Dumbass. Or if you're smart, you'll lie and say you used to be a trained paramedic and came on board to try and see if these people could need help. Unfortunately, they're very clearly and obviously dead, so you were pretty much useless by the time and couldn't get off the ship by the time the police arrived. The man you just ordered off the boat is Bert Foister, the harbor master. He's the one who called you, and just who might you be? Boy, we are just taking cliche crap right out of cliche crap, aren't we? She's Kelly G. Montgomery. Homicide Detective Alan Kingston swung his long legs over the top rung of the bridge ladder and added, "Also known as Lordstad Marina's resident snoop." I do so love a compliment. Yes, your very stereotypical sarcasm is noted. "Hello, detective. Nice to see you again, too." Not that he was such a pretty sight. His raincoat, a dirty, frayed at the cuffs, torn pocket affair, and his equally scourgy suit and dress shoes didn't make him a likely candidate for Seattle PD's best-dressed detective. They're not supposed to be. They're detectives. I would imagine that they sometimes have to get stuck in a lot of crap. So, while, they're kind of required to wear nice pants and a nice shirt and probably a tie, they don't always stay like that. So I don't see what needing to be good looking matters. Having charisma, yes. Being good looking, no. But Alan Kingston's impressive 20-year record with the department hadn't gone unnoticed. As long as he continued to produce results, the brass seemed willing to cut him some slack on the dress code issue. I wouldn't say Kingston and I were old pals, but we did have a history of sorts. Despite his outstanding record, I've bailed him out on the fire. I bailed him out of the fire on more than one occasion, the most recent being the eyewitness I located in a drowning case. Because you are so important to this story and to this guy. The effort saved Kingston and his partner, Brian Saunders, from wasting valuable time chasing after the wrong suspect. Because you magically know this somehow. I looked at it this way. He could call me Snoop or any other old name he wanted, but sooner or later he would have to appreciate, if not welcome, my smarts and moxie. What smarts? What smarts? What fucking smarts? You aren't fucking smart, you dumbass. You fuck. You're just some chick, making it harder for the police to do their own job. You say they were on the wrong suspect path, but how do you really know that? Where are we shown here? You know, that could have been something awesome to open with, like Savannah Ride does. With every book of Savannah Ride, she opens up with something that shows she's part of a detective team, that she knows to a degree what she's doing. Even if something happens, like I think it was in Cooked Goose, which I'll probably read around Christmas, where she messes up and gets it wrong. But you still are shown that she's friends with a detective. She's a private investigator. She knows how to go undercover. Where were you showing us that you knew that they were on the wrong trail here? Show me where, other than you just saying this to float your own boat, that you did something useful and important and that was necessary to establish your character and your relationship with other characters, especially detective characters and police characters, that warrant you being there to help them out for some reason. Oh wait, you're just doing exactly what I said, that you're just floating your own boat? Huh. Seems like to me you don't really need to be there at all. I'll take it from here, Benson, said Kingston. The officer paused just long enough to toss me another scowl before scurrying off. Where's Brian? I asked, giving me a reprieve. What's that supposed to mean? Brian was a bright young man, not long out of college, who hadn't exactly endeared himself to Kingston since becoming his partner. He got himself shot, probably out a month or more. My God, I didn't know. That's terrible. Don't fret yourself. The kid's got a lock on the fast track. A little bullet's not going to stop him from making Sergeant right on schedule. He looked over at Miranda's body. It wasn't difficult to guess what was coming next. Kingston sighed and shook his head. Kelly. Yes? How many times do I have to tell you you're not supposed to compromise a crime scene? Somebody with intelligence. This detective is awesome. Please tell me he's gonna smack the shit out of her for being fucking stupid. Arrest her! Because her ass should be arrested right now! I haven't compromised anything. Is this a crime scene? He asked, pointing at Miranda's body. Without waiting for a response, he carried on the conversation without me. Yes, detective, this is definitely a crime scene, he said, mimicking my voice. And are you standing in the middle of a crime scene? Yes, detective, I certainly am. Then the goddamn fucking crime scene is goddamn fucking compromised. Thank you. Are you quite finished, detective? I asked, because I'm 5 and I think I'm entitled to shit, and Kassie now wants to punch my face in with her fist because I am a bitch. I hate this character. I hate her so much. No, but you are. He took my arm, presumably to escort me off the boat. If he was smart, he'd throw you off the boat into the water, and hopefully you would drown. And then I wouldn't have to read the second book, and I could go back in time and imagine that I never read the third book. In fact, you should be arrested rather than just escorted off of the boat away from the crime scene, because you know what you just did? You made his job harder by being there. And even if somehow you can magically solve this crime, which of course you do, because you're special, it's going to be hard to make it stick, even if you have all kinds of evidence, because you know what you did? You compromised the crime scene. That means your presence there possibly fucked up any and all evidence of what really happened. That means whatever case they could possibly put together, it's still possible that nobody gets convicted because you're a dumbass and you ruined that possible conviction. The judge could probably throw out all, if not most, of the evidence due to your ass being there. Oh, thank God, chapter 3 is right after this page. Wait a minute, I said, twisting out of his grasp. Don't you want to know who she is? You know the victim, he said. I know both victims. Couldn't he just find that out himself, or ask the guy he's actually supposed to ask, like the people in charge of the fucking marina? Arrest her ass! She has no reason to be there! He sighed wearily. Okay, Montgomery, I guess I'll have to talk to you. Hey, most men would fight for the privilege to chuck you off the boat after punching you in the face and bludgeoning you to death with an object and then turning the boat around and running you over with it several times. He glanced at Miranda's body again, and then down at the crowd gathered along the dock. The only fighting that'll be going on around here is over. Okay, I got confused because I went on a little rant. The only fighting the crowd gathered along, fighting that'll be going on around here is over who's going to get the case. Isn't the case assigned to the detectives that before they arrive on scene? Besides the uniforms who were providing crowd control, representatives from the King County Sheriff's Office and the Port of Seattle Police had now arrived on the scene. Again, Port of Seattle Police? Is that like a separate part of the Seattle Police Department? I don't understand why it's a port. Due to unique location of the marina, jurisdictional boundaries between the various law enforcement agencies weren't very well defined. No, that's not how stuff works. All law enforcement agencies are have their jurisdictions very well established. They know where their jurisdictions end, because once you go past your jurisdiction, you have no authority. As a result, you could have as many as 3 or 4 different groups vying for the same case, which is bullshit. That's not how stuff works. I forgot, men and dogs, they're so territorial. You are such a sexist asshole, I said, immediately regretting the remark. Apparently you didn't, because you easily said it. Kingston looked tired. He often looked tired, but this was something different, a weariness that enveloped him like smoke, altering and softening him somehow. Because everybody melts in your presence. Because you are some kind of goddess that's going to solve every mystery known to man. All hail Mary Sue in a book. Listen, Kelly, he said after a moment, I really would like to talk to you about the victims. How about meeting me at the topside in an hour? Or how about you actually fucking arrest her for being basically tampering with a crime scene? Touched by the almost tender way he'd spoken, I smiled and told him I'd be there. Then, feeling I had reassured him, I said, Don't worry, Kingston, I promise I won't interfere with your case this time. Which is bullshit, because we know she will. Even though she has no reason to, no purpose in it, she will. Damn straight, Montgomery. Now get out of here, he growled, shrugging off my lingering hints of tenderness. I've got a crime scene to secure. I really don't want to read another chapter of this bullshit. I don't want to. It's almost been 2 hours. I don't want to. Chapter 3. After leaving Alan Kingston to his official duties, I decided to check on how Bert was doing. His office was on the top level of the 3-story building that housed the marina's administration offices. Like the rest of the marina, the harbor master's office was a grand event with a profusion of oak and brass, oriental carpeting, oil paintings, and leather furniture. It looked like the office of a CEO from some Fortune 500 company. Actually, the office used to belong to Old Man Lordstad, who let Bert take it over when he decided he'd rather spend his time on the golf course. The weasel's been bent out of shape over the arrangement ever since. He had a little cubbyhole down on the first floor behind the employee lounge, which he claimed didn't properly reflect his station in life. Everyone agreed a broom closet would have suited him much better. And again, this character is supposed to be some kind of slimy, disgusting dude, like What's-His-Face from the Savannah Ride mystery novels. But he hasn't really done anything to her, or anybody really, except state truth and stuff that they wanted to know. So we're just hating on the guy to hate on him. When I walked in, Bert was stretched out on a white leather couch with his eyes closed and a damp cloth draped across his forehead. How are you doing, Bert? I asked. He removed the cloth and, struggling a bit, pulled himself upright. Okay, I guess. I found a comfy-looking chair and sat down, relieved to be off my feet for a while. He noticed my limp and asked, What's the matter with you? Nothing to worry about. Bert rubbed his temples. Geez, Kelly, I don't know how you do it. Do what? Look at all that bloody gore without feeding the fish. You forget, Bert, I've seen much worse, huh? 15 years ago, teaching in Seattle public schools. Wow. Now, that's a slam. Granted, I don't know much about crime rate in Seattle, but it's also very stereotypical of public school systems. which I was in public school system, so fuck you. He let that groaner pass without comment and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows, where he had a bird's-eye view of the marina. I slipped off my shoes and socks and rubbed my ankle a moment, then propped both feet atop Burke's desk. Still peering out the window, he asked, "What's going on down there now?" Detective Kingston showed up after you left and started barking orders at everyone. Ran me off. As he should have. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Has the medical examiner arrived yet? I don't think so. They just started stretching that yellow police tape all over the place when I left. We could have a big problem over this thing, Kelly. What do you mean? One of the Nakito guys called me a few minutes ago. He wanted to know about our security procedures. Apparently, Wilmington told him it leaves a lot to be desired, which is probably true. Wilmington leaves a lot to be desired, which I could understand. That's probably not the best way to phrase things, but if it's true, which apparently it is, since these two guys just got killed, fearing that his own meal ticket might be in jeopardy if the Nakito deal went through, he'd integrated himself with the advance teams set to check out the marina by personally escorting them around as they examined the books, interviewed employees, and generally got in everybody's way. Maybe so, Bert said inside. He folded his arms across his chest, as if trying to hold himself together. But he's got them so spooked that they've asked for a briefing tomorrow morning. Besides the security info, they want me to give them some kind of damage control plan. Why? We only mentioned that they were interested in buying the place, but that nobody was really wanting them to buy the place. It was really up to the guy who actually owned the place. I'm confused as to why we have to report to a company that doesn't own us and has no business to know about what's going on unless they are going to buy the place. Which they're not. Because nobody said it's official that they're going to buy the place or already own a large part of it. Damage control? You know how to deal with adverse publicity. They think the murders might affect business in the marina. Listen, Bert, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have made such a fuss about going aboard and marrying. What does that mean now? What does that have to do with now? What does that have to do with what you're talking about now? Nothing. You are not fucking important. Stop inserting your ass into everything. You are not fucking important. I don't give a shit if you're the main character. You're not important to the conversation right now. Making such a fuss about going aboard, Mary Maiden. I didn't think things would turn out like this. Because somehow that is so important to what we were just talking about, with a company wanting to know how the murders would affect them in the public eye. Neither did I, he turned from the window. Well, I suppose I ought to head back down there to try and act like a harbor master, he said without enthusiasm. At least while I still am one. Aw, Bert. He hadn't been this down on himself since Donna chewed him up and spit him out. Who the fuck is Donna? I didn't feel so great myself. My little stun at the dock was just the sort of thing the weasel lived for. I'm sure, because this whole situation is his fault. The whole situation is this guy's fault. Everything going on is somehow your fault, which transformed into his fault. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're not making sense. Bert didn't deserve that Catholic guilt. 'Cause you're only Catholic when it matters. It was moving in faster than a cold front. What can I do, Bert? Short of solving the murders, you mean? That's not such a bad idea. Now hold on, Kelly, I wasn't serious. This is so fucking cliche! This is so fucking cliche! This is so generic. And not just generic, but also bordering on the whole... Don't write like this. People who write books, don't write like this. Don't use cliches. Don't write like this. Never write like this. This is not somebody you should look up to. Don't. Just don't. Think about it. If I help out with the investigation, this whole mess might be cleared up real soon. Because that totally makes sense that I help with the investigation, because it's not like I have police training or anything. It's not like I know what I'm doing. Because anybody can just go solve a crime, right? Anybody can just stick their nose in anybody else's business, right? Right? Not like I was complaining about that one guy saying he was full of shit and just liked to look important. I wonder if I was projecting myself onto somebody else. No, that couldn't be it. That's Alan Kingston's job, not yours. Why do we need to say his full name? Just say Detective Kingston or Kingston. Don't sweat the details. The important thing is the Nakito boys need to be reassured that we're on top of the situation. It could save both our jobs. Your jobs aren't threatened yet. Nobody has bought anything. These guys don't need a report from you. They're not buying anything yet. You said this. They were wanting to buy it because it was prime real estate, but nobody sold anything. Nobody's even been in negotiations with them. Or put us out on the street. Face it, Bert, the way things have been going, we're practically there already. The weasel hasn't exactly been giving Nakito Enterprises a flattering picture of us. You don't know that. That was one thing. One thing you think he said. One thing that you haven't confirmed he did or did not say. Maybe it's true. Maybe your security is bullshit. You have no security. Maybe you should get better security. That would be a good idea. You can never have too much. Well, actually you can, but it will always do you good to have better, to improve your security and have more of it. Just don't be ridiculous like putting cameras in bathrooms or making people take their shoes off before they and have to go through a metal detector or some bullshit like that. He sighed and glanced out the window again. You're right about Wilmington. After a moment he said, but what about your job? Do you really have the time to get involved? For that matter, what makes you think you can solve this case? Because I have bullshit Mary Sue MacGuffin powers. Time I've got. There aren't any sailing classes scheduled until after the holidays. That wasn't exactly true, but I saw no reason to confuse Bert with the facts. As for solving the case, I do have a pretty good track record. Being the first book, no, you don't. We were notified of one instance of your own self-glorification that was neither confirmed nor contradicted. It's basically hearsay as to whether you did something or not. It's not fact. Nobody confirmed what you said about yourself. So, it's as good as nothing. Also, good job putting off your job for something you shouldn't be screwing around with. Susie was family, he said simply. I knew what he was implying. I'd known his 16-year-old niece since she was a baby. Her death had hit me as hard as it had him. In Bert's view, her being family was the only reason I'd been so motivated to locate her killer. So, more pointing out that I'm special, even though I'm not a cop. Something that would have been good to mention earlier, or maybe actually tie into the plot of this story, or maybe even have that the focus of this story. Basically, what we're doing is we're throwing it's like the author thinks that we don't need an introduction to this character, that it's okay to just bypass introducing this character to us and having no, what's the word I'm trying to find? No, not introduction, no background, no establishing. There we go. No establishment for where this character came from, who she is, where she grew up, why she is the way she is, how did she meet these guys. I mean, it's like I'm already 2 or 3 books in. But this is the first book. Isn't it? This is the first book. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the first book. But it's already like we've had a book that already introduced all of this to us. And a good writer who's going to write a series of stories would have references to past cases to reiterate that, hey, I've done this, as well as self-promote that this other book exists. It might be nice for you to go pick that up and read it, as well as this one that you're reading. Like, for example, the whole thing about finding an eyewitness to a drowning. That could have been its own book. And that could have been the second book. And then this talk here about this guy's niece. There's your first book. It's how she got her job. It's why this guy goes out of his way to do things that she wants to do. That would make sense. That would establish her character, where she came from, why she's there, the fact that she needs a job, that she gets her way in later books. I'm coming up with much more interesting crap than this author did. This author just blew past introductions and setting up the world, and we're just suddenly thrusted into all this like it's already been there and done that. And we're just having these, oh, by the way, I did this. You want to read about it? Well, tough luck. I'm just going to tell you about it. And that's not how you write a story. That's not how you establish characters or a setting. The Weasel never gave me a chance to answer your question about how I know the Moyers. It doesn't matter. I checked the records. They weren't liveaboards like you, but their yacht had been moored across from your slip ever since you've been here. You and the Moyers were dock neighbors. So, yeah. So the whole thing about Susie was a paragraph of pointlessness, apparently. Just more self-gratification for the main character, I guess. It was much more than that. Donald Moore was the attorney who handled Cassie's adoption. Joy of joys, I'm in this fucking story. And oh my god, I am her fucking adopted daughter. I have a shitty adoptive mother. No, thank you. I want my real mother back. Okay, thanks, bye. Good Lord, Kelly, that was almost 20 years ago. Are you saying that you've kept in touch with him ever since? Well, no, not more than a casual hello whenever we happen to run into each other, but I've always felt grateful for what he did for us. I owe him a lot, because of Kassie, I mean. You know, this is something to establish. You know, this, if you had established this in the first chapter, if this had been established in the first chapter, as it should have been, this would have gave you a reason to go aboard the boat. Because you have a personal connection, it would make sense you're illogically doing something that would contaminate the scene because you are emotionally involved in what's going on. You would unintentionally fuck up the crime scene because of love and worry and having emotional attachment to these people. But you wait until now to tell us this fact. You wait until now to be like, oh hey, these are the guys who helped me finish the papers for my adopted daughter, who just so happens to have the same name as the person that's reviewing this book. You don't wait to tell people this kind of information. This actually gives gives the reader an understanding of why you'd want to fuck around in the case. Because you have a personal attachment. You want to see justice done to people that are important to you. But it's too late now. It just seems contrived. It just seems like you need a reason, so now you invented one. So you could stick your nose in a case that you have no reason to stick your nose into. Had you already established this, it would have been fine. It still would have been stupid and dumb to do so. But the reader, I could have understood. It makes sense. Waiting until near the end of the third chapter to give the main protagonist an actual solid reason why she would go and bungle up a case. We tossed the subject around for a few more minutes. Finally, Bert agreed that it wouldn't hurt for me to see what I could find out about the Moyers. Why does he have to give you his okay? Why do you need him to tell you it's okay to go fuck around? Why don't you just secretly go fuck around and try to figure stuff out? Claim you're a detective or something. This is a waste of my time. Why do you need his permission? Is he going to somehow be your sidekick and help you? I mean, that'd be the only reason why you need to talk to him about this crap. Whatever. Just be careful, Kelly, he warned. Wilmington is already trying to turn these murders to his advantage. How? How? By saying your security is shit? It's probably true. How have we established that he's trying to profit over these murders? You're not proving anything to me. You're just bullshitting. I can handle the weasel. What about Detective Kingston? That may take a little finessing. He laughed for the first time. Good luck. He gave one last look out the window and then crossed the room. The crowd's getting pretty big. Guess I better go. He stopped at the desk where he picked up his hat and clipboard. You coming? He asked. No. If you don't mind, I'd like to stay put. Rest my ankle here for a few more minutes. Sure, no problem, he said, heading for the door. Oh, Bert, before you go, where do you keep those files for visitors? His face wrinkled up in a confused look. You know, I explained, the ones where the boat owners list all the people they want the marina to let through the security gates. The visitor access list? That's it. He eyed me suspiciously. What do you want that for? Oh, just an idea I have. It's probably nothing, but I'd like to look at the list anyway. He pointed to the five-drawer filing cabinet. Help yourself. If you find anything useful, let me know. How we deal with visitor access is going to be a top item at tomorrow's briefing. Whatever the state of the marina security, Bert's filing system left, in the weasel's words, a lot to be desired. After spending 30 frustrating minutes rifling through all 5 file cabinet drawers, I finally discovered the folder with the information I wanted. If I hurried, I'd be able to make it to the top side just in time for my meeting. Done. Fucking done. So, what did I think of this story? It's a little better. It's not written in passively, exactly. Not as bad as the third book. Why she switched to such passive tone of storytelling, I don't know, but she's a little more involved with doing stuff in this book, which is a lot better than the third book. The storytelling of the character and the stupidity that all the characters go through and do is still mind-boggling frustrating. Like, I cannot comprehend why she thought any of this was good for a story. Why she focuses on such stereotypical cartoony crap instead of something more realistic that makes sense. You know, it's not like I'm watching a supernatural anime or something. I just cannot stand how she is completely failing at knowing anything about criminal justice system, how police work, how lawyers work, how investigating a crime scene works, who can go into a crime scene area, and why the author... I mean, there's nothing to actually describe what Kelly looks like. Like, we don't really get a description as to what any of these characters really look like. Am I just supposed to assume that it's the author? Am I supposed to assume Kelly is me? Why is Kelly a nobody? Is she the invisible woman? Why does she have no physical description? Why is she just a dick who feels self-important? And the whole unrealisticness of the situation, I just cannot stand these stories. And the fact that I still have to read 3 chapters of the second book, I don't want to. It's like when I was reading Sexy Santa and My Inner Life. I don't want to read this. I don't want to come back to it. But I feel I have to because I started it. And I know you guys want to know what my opinions are. And some of you are entertained by my pain. But I don't want to read these books because they're not very good. And in fact, they make me very angry. Because, while I'm not very good at writing mystery stories, I at least know how to write. And how a story should build. and how you should pace a story, and where you should throw in introductions, and where you shouldn't, what you should keep secret until you need to reveal it, and what you shouldn't. I was a creative writing major in college, and these books pain me. They pain me on a creative writing level, an English major level, as well as a logic level, because there is no logic in these books. It's just like any bad fan fiction I've read. It's a pointless waste of time. Just main character self-gratification. The plot moves because the author wants the plot to move. And that's not how you write a story. You don't force the plot. You don't force characters to do anything. I gave several different reasons while reading how you could have made this make sense. Like, there was no reason for her to go aboard the boat until long after she's already done this. Like, after she went aboard the boat, then she says she was a volunteer paramedic for 2 years, or however long she said it was. And I'm like, well, then that makes sense why you'd go aboard the boat in case they needed help, because that's what I was bitching about. I'm like, the only reason you need to go aboard the boat is if you're law enforcement or some kind of, like, doctor or something, which she apparently was for a while. I mean, a paramedic isn't exactly the same thing as a doctor or a nurse or anything like that, but they are trained to give immediate first response help. Basically to try and stabilize you until you can get to the hospital, or somebody who has the proper medical equipment and knowledge, comes to help you. That's what paramedics are supposed to do. They're rapid response to come to your place or wherever you happen to be, help you out, and then try to stabilize you enough to get you to the location that you need to go to get state-of-the-art medical help, or as close to state-of-the-art as you can in your area. Because not all hospitals are the same. Some are not as rich as others. And then, of course, the other motivation that would have made sense is the whole thing about her adopted daughter, who I refuse to mention the name of because I don't want to be associated with this crap aside from reviewing it. That would have been the fact that this guy who was murdered helped her with the paperwork to get her adopted daughter so many years ago. That would, she feels like she owes him for the favor, for all the help he'd been. That's a fantastic motivation. That makes sense why this character would do something stupid, because they're suddenly in this emotional state. And so they're not thinking logically, they're not thinking clearly, and so they'll act before they can think. I could have totally understood where she was coming from and why she would have went to do that, but she didn't. That was not her motivation for going aboard the ship. She even said so. She just wanted to see dead bodies. She wanted to be a tourist for dead bodies. And I even made a necrophilia reference, because that must have been why she wanted to go see dead bodies. It's so she could masturbate all over the place over blood, guts, and gore, and goop, and ew. So I think that's all I have to say about Sins of Silence, the first book in the Sailing Mysteries by Valerie Wilcox. Eventually, not right now, because I'm pretty upset, I'll be reading Sins of Betrayal, which is the second book, basically the last book out of the 3 to be read. And I'm gonna go read a better story, because I just need to be happy. Just need to read a good mystery novel, like more Savannah Ride. Just something that is written competently. I'm Caleb, and this has been Red Knot. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye!